All right, you royal rubberneckers, let's cut the crap. Queen Elizabeth, you know the old lady on all that money. You think you know her. Stiff portraits waving at all the freaking plebes, the whole dog and pony show. Well, fuck that noise. We're going deep on the real Liz today. Buckle up for some shit you wouldn't believe.
It's certainly a fascinating life, full of surprises.
Surprises. More like, holy shit, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Moments. We're talking about a woman who drove trucks during a goddamn war, probably told world leaders to go fuck themselves. And who knows what else went down behind those palace walls, and all we've got to work with is this Wikipedia page. But trust me, it's a fucking goldmine.
Well, let's not jump to conclusions, but yes, her life is far more complex and intriguing than the image often portrayed. Even her childhood was unusual.
Oh, you think little Lilibet was just some spoiled princess? Think again. This chick was tight with Grandpa England, King George V. Apparently her little ass cheered him up when he was on his deathbed. Talk about the power of cute.
Her close relationship with her grandfather is well documented. It's believed that her visits and youthful energy did contribute to his improved spirits during a period of serious illness.
And get this, no fancy pants boarding schools for Liz and her sister. They were homeschooled. Tutors up the ass, teaching them everything from history and languages to fucking constitutional law. Talk about foreshadowing.
Her education, while unconventional, was remarkably comprehensive, preparing her for a potential role she couldn't have fully anticipated at the time.
Yeah, no shit. And then, bam, Uncle Edward, what a goddamn asshat, decides he'd rather have some divorced American chick than the throne. So Daddy Dearest becomes king, and suddenly Liz is next in line.
Yeah.
But did she hide in a bunker when World War II broke out? Fuck no. This chick rolled up her sleeves and became a mechanic. A mechanic. Can you picture the queen covered in grease fixing a flat tire?
Her service in the Auxiliary Territorial Service during the war was quite remarkable. It demonstrated a practicality and willingness to contribute to the war effort in a very hands-on way.
Damn straight. And she even gave a radio broadcast to all the terrified kids hiding from bombs. Maybe a bit of propaganda, sure, but still the queen was out there trying to connect with people going through some serious shit.
That first broadcast, aimed at children experiencing the anxieties of wartime, does highlight her understanding of the hardships faced by ordinary people, particularly the younger generation.
Okay, fast forward to the end of the war. Everyone's expecting Liz to marry some rich, blue-blooded prick. But who does she fall for? Philip. Now, Philip wasn't a bad-looking dude, don't get me wrong, but he was broke as a joke, foreign-born, and get this, German relatives. Can you imagine the gossip?
Her choice of husband was indeed unconventional. Prince Philip, while of royal lineage, lacked wealth and came from a background that raised eyebrows among the British aristocracy.
You think? Her mom was probably spitting fire. But Liz, stubborn as a mule, didn't give a flying fuck. Philip gave it his titles, converted religions, even took his mom's last name. Talk about whipped. Or maybe he was playing the long game, who knows?
The dynamics of their relationship were certainly fascinating from the start. Philip's sacrifices illustrate the complexities of navigating royal tradition and personal desires, as well as the significant compromises involved in such a high-profile union.
And even with all the royal pomp and circumstance, guess what? They still needed ration coupons for her damn wedding dress. Post-war Britain, everyone was scrimping and saving, even the goddamn queen.
That detail highlights the realities of post-war austerity in Britain and the extent to which it affected all levels of society. It emphasizes a sense of shared experience and hardship during that period.
Then, bam, her dad kicks the bucket. She's 25 years old, and suddenly she's queen of 7 goddamn countries. Can you imagine the pressure? And immediately there's a shitstorm brewing over the royal house's name, Windsor or Mountbatten.
The debate over the royal house name reflects the historical importance and sensitivities surrounding royal lineage and tradition. The decision to retain Windsor rather than adopting Philip's family name underscores the enduring weight of that specific bloodline.
Yeah, poor Philip. Talk about getting shafted. And as if dealing with a new country every other week wasn't enough, her sister Margaret decides to cause a ruckus. She wants to marry a divorced dude. Scandalous. The queen's caught between a rock and a hard place, trying to support her sister, but also uphold centuries of tradition.
The situation with Princess Margaret and Peter Townsend reveals the conflict between personal desires and the expectations of the monarchy, particularly in matters of marriage. This incident foreshadowed the challenges the royal family would face in navigating changing social norms while maintaining a sense of tradition.
And let me tell you, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
So we left off with a young queen facing family drama and the monumental task of leading 7 nations. It's quite a jump from fixing trucks to ruling an empire.
And let's not forget the world was a goddamn mess back then. Decolonization was kicking off. The Cold War was getting frosty, and Britain was trying to figure out its place in this whole new world order. Talk about a baptism by fire.
Indeed, it was a period of immense global change, and the Queen's early reign was marked by significant challenges and triumphs as she navigated these complex geopolitical shifts.
So what does she do? She packs her bags and sets off on a world domination tour. We're talking 13 countries in 7 months, shaking hands and kissing babies from the Caribbean to Australia. This chick was racking up frequent flyer miles before they even existed.
That First World Tour was a strategic masterstroke. It allowed her to connect with her subjects across the Commonwealth, solidifying her role as a unifying figurehead during a time of rapid change and uncertainty.
And these weren't just some boring-ass parades. We're talking massive crowds, millions of people lining the streets to catch a glimpse of the Queen. She was like a goddamn rock star.
The sheer scale of those crowds is remarkable. It speaks to the public's fascination with the monarchy and the genuine excitement surrounding Elizabeth's ascension to the throne. She was young, glamorous, and represented hope for a brighter future after years of war and hardship.
And remember, this was the 50s. No internet, no social media. This was pure raw charisma, the kind of connection politicians would kill for. The Queen was a symbol of stability and continuity in a world that was changing faster than anyone could keep up.
It's also important to remember the backdrop of decolonization. As former colonies gained independence, the Queen's role evolved from that of a traditional monarch to a leader of a diverse, voluntary association of nations, the Commonwealth. It was a delicate balancing act, navigating the sensitivities of former colonial subjects while forging new relationships based on mutual respect and cooperation.
Yeah, and while she was busy charming the pants off everyone on her world tour, things back home weren't exactly a walk in the park. Remember that whole Suez crisis?
Yeah.
Britain, France, and Israel decided to invade Egypt, and it turned into a clusterfuck of epic proportions. Suddenly, the Queen's stuck, having to pick a new prime minister because the old one resigned in disgrace. Talk about a political shitstorm.
The Suez Crisis was a defining moment in Elizabeth's early reign. It highlighted the complex constitutional role of the monarch, demonstrating her involvement in crucial political decisions that extended far beyond ceremonial duties.
Yeah, this wasn't just about waving at the plebs and signing some papers. This was realpolitik with international consequences. And Liz was right in the thick of it. She had to choose between two candidates with vastly different approaches to the crisis, knowing that her decision could have a ripple effect throughout the world.
And while her exact influence on the decision-making process remained shrouded in some secrecy, the Suez Crisis solidified her image as a shrewd and decisive leader capable of navigating complex political terrain. It also demonstrated the constraints of her position, as she ultimately had to act on the advice of her ministers, even if she personally disagreed with their course of action.
So we've got a queen who fixes trucks, charms world leaders, and manages political crises like a boss. But let's not forget about all the other shit that was going down during those early years. Rhodesia decides to rebel against British rule. The UK joins the European community and the world on the brink of nuclear war. Talk about a stressful fucking time to be queen.
Indeed, those early decades of her reign were marked by significant social and political upheaval. The Queen had to adapt, constantly balancing traditional values with the changing demands of a rapidly evolving world. Her ability to remain a symbol of stability and continuity amidst this turmoil is a testament to her resilience and adaptability.
And let's not forget about the personal tragedies and scandals that rocked the royal family. The Aberfan disaster, where a mountain of coal waste buried a whole village, killing dozens of children. The Queen faced criticism for her delayed response, accused of being out of touch with the suffering of her people.
The Aberfan disaster was a national tragedy that shook the country to its core. While the Queen eventually visited the devastated community and expressed her profound sorrow, the criticism she received highlighted the evolving expectations placed upon the monarchy. The public demanded a more immediate and visible demonstration of empathy, challenging the traditional reserved approach typically associated with royalty.
Yeah, and then there were the assassination attempts. Multiple times. People forget that being queen isn't all tea parties and corgis. This woman faced real danger threats to her life, just for being who she was.
Those assassination attempts underscore the unique vulnerabilities of the monarchy. They serve as a stark reminder that even with immense privilege and power comes a significant burden of risk and responsibility. The Queen's life was constantly under scrutiny, and she had to navigate a complex world where admiration and adoration could quickly turn to hostility and violence.
And we haven't even touched on the family drama that was brewing behind those palace walls. The Queen's kids were a constant source of tabloid fodder, their messy love lives and public scandals threatening to tarnish the image of the monarchy.
Indeed, the personal lives of Elizabeth's children became increasingly intertwined with the public perception of the monarchy. The idealized image of the royal family, carefully cultivated over decades, began to crack under the scrutiny of the media, which relished in exposing the flaws and indiscretions of the younger generation.
And it was only going to get worse from there. Buckle up, folks, because the next chapter is a wild ride of fire, divorce, and national heartbreak. All right, you royal gossip hounds, let's pick up where we left off. Remember all that family drama brewing with the Queen's kids? Well, shit hit the fan in the 80s. Charles and Di's marriage imploding faster than a dying star. Andrew and Fergie making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The tabloids were having a fucking field day.
The 1980s marked a significant shift in the public's relationship with the monarchy. The idealized image of a united and harmonious royal family, carefully cultivated in the earlier decades of Elizabeth's reign, began to crumble under the relentless scrutiny of the media.
Yeah, the fairy tale was over.
Wow.
And the whole world was watching this royal train wreck in slow motion, like a soap opera but with tiaras and corgis. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, Windsor Castle, the Queen's beloved home, goes up in flames. Talk about adding insult to injury.
The fire at Windsor Castle in 1992 was a devastating blow, both literally and symbolically. It came at a time when the monarchy was already facing intense criticism, and it seemed to encapsulate the sense of vulnerability and turmoil that had engulfed the royal family.
And it's in the middle of this shitstorm, the Queen drops her infamous "Annus Horribilis" line during a speech. Talk about an understatement. It was like she was acknowledging that her world was falling apart, or with that stiff upper lip that only the British can pull off.
Her use of the phrase "annus horribilis" to describe 1992 perfectly captured the sentiment of that tumultuous year. It was a rare moment of public vulnerability from the Queen, acknowledging the challenges and heartbreaks she and the monarchy were enduring.
But the biggest blow was yet to come. Diana, the People's Princess, dies in a car crash in Paris, and the world loses its collective mind. Suddenly, the Queen, who had always been seen as this distant, almost mythical figure, was thrust into the role of grieving grandmother, a mother figure for a nation in mourning.
The death of Diana, Princess of Wales, was a seismic event that sent shockwaves through the world. It triggered an unprecedented outpouring of grief and brought intense scrutiny upon the royal family's response.
And at first, the Queen remained silent, secluded at Balmoral with her grandsons. The public, desperate for reassurance and leadership, didn't take it well. They accused her of being cold, unfeeling, out of touch with the raw emotion gripping the nation.
The Queen's initial silence was interpreted by many as a misstep. It underscored the perceived disconnect between the traditional stoic approach of the monarchy and the public's desire for a more emotionally expressive and relatable royal family.
Yeah, the pressure was on. And the Queen, who had weathered countless storms throughout her reign, was facing a crisis unlike any other. Finally, she gives a televised address, and it was a game changer. Remember that line? Speaking as a grandmother. It was like she was finally letting her guard down, revealing the human being behind the crown.
That broadcast was a pivotal moment in the Queen's reign. By addressing the nation directly and speaking from the heart, she managed to shift public opinion, conveying a sense of empathy and shared grief that resonated with millions. It demonstrated her ability to adapt to changing expectations and connect with her people on a deeply emotional level.
It was like the whole nation breathed a collective sigh of relief. Their queen was back. And from that point on, you see a shift. She becomes the modern monarch, navigating the 21st century with a blend of tradition and a willingness to embrace change.
The Queen's later years were marked by remarkable resilience and adaptability. She embraced new technologies, engaged with social media, and continued to travel extensively, representing the UK on the world stage. She witnessed extraordinary social and political transformations, from the rise of the internet to the global financial crisis to the COVID-19 pandemic. And throughout it all, she remained a symbol of stability and continuity.
And let's not forget her stamina. This woman was attending the Olympics, breaking records for the longest reign, becoming a great-grandmother, all while dealing with the usual royal bullshit. And then in 2020, COVID hits, and the world's in lockdown. Remember that "we will meet again" speech. It was like she was channeling the spirit of wartime Britain, offering comfort and reassurance during a time of fear and uncertainty.
That speech, delivered from Windsor Castle during the first national lockdown, was a masterclass in evoking a sense of shared history and resilience. It tapped into a collective cultural memory, reminding people of their strength and capacity for overcoming adversity.
And then last year, she loses Philip. They were married for over 70 years. Talk about a power couple. Seeing her sitting alone at his funeral, it was a gut punch. Even the Queen, with all her strength and stoicism, wasn't immune to heartbreak.
The death of Prince Philip marked the end of an era and a profound personal loss for the Queen. Their partnership was extraordinary, spanning decades of shared experiences, challenges, and triumphs. His absence left a void that was deeply felt by the Queen and by the nation as a whole.
So there you have it, folks. Queen Elizabeth II, the good, the bad, and the goddamn ugly. From fixing trucks to dodging assassins to navigating family meltdowns, this woman lived a life most of us can only dream of. She was a symbol of an era, a witness to history, and a goddamn badass.
It's a life that defies easy categorization. It was a life of immense privilege and power, but also one of duty, sacrifice, and constant scrutiny. Queen Elizabeth II's legacy is complex and multifaceted, leaving behind a tapestry of achievements, controversies, and enduring questions.
And that's what makes her so fucking fascinating. So tell me, you royal obsessives, what's your take on the Queen? Hit us up on social media, and let's dissect this royal saga. We're out.